Alrighty guys, we're over here on Zerohedge.com. Zerohedge.com. We have an article here named "The Essence of Evil. Sex with Children has become big business in America." This is dated April 27, 2019. Okay guys, like I've said over and over again, it hasn't been time to expose the child trafficking and the sex trafficking and the human trafficking and the child sacrificing and all the other evil and wicked and corrupt things that are going on in the world today. But it's beginning to become time, as it's beginning to make news now. This is the time we've been waiting on. The cleansing, the cleansing, the cleansing. So the essence of evil, sex with children, has become big business in America. Get ready guys, things are fixing to go down. Children are being targeted and sold for sex in America every day. John Ryan, National Center of Missing and Exploited Children. Children, young girls, some as young as 9 years old, are being bought and sold for sex in America. The average age for a young woman being sold for sex is 13 years old. This is America's dirty little secret. Sex trafficking, especially when it comes to the buying and selling of young girls, has become big business in America. The fastest growing business in organized crime and the second most lucrative commodity traded illegally after drugs and guns. As investigative journalist Amy Fine Collins notes, it's become more lucrative and much safer to sell malleable teens than drugs or guns. And this is a link guys that you can click on. So again, the article that I go over will be in the show more. You can go to the article and click on the link. I'm not going to go into the links, I'm just going to go over the main part. A pound of heroin or an AK-47 can be retailed once, but a young girl can be sold 10 to 15 times a day, and a righteous pimp confiscates 100% of her earnings. Okay, there is no righteousness at all in this in any way, form, or fashion. These are sick, sick, sick individuals, sick, sick, sick people, guys. Absolutely disturbing what's going on in this world. Consider this: every 2 minutes, a child is exploited in the sex industry. Again, this is a link that you can go click on and do further investigation. According to USA Today, adults purchase children for sex at least 2.5 million times a year in the United States. That's just in the United States alone, people. Unbelievable. Who buys a child for sex? Otherwise, ordinary men from all walks of life. And again, this is a link, guys, and I'm not going into the links because I want you to go and do your own investigation and come to the truth for yourself. This is important, guys, that you learn to investigate, that you learn to get to the bottom of things on your own, without the help of me or another channel or a Twitter account or whatever, but that you learn to go and investigate it yourselves so you know the truth for yourselves. This is important stuff, guys. They could be your co-worker, doctor, pastor, or spouse. Vice Journalist Tim Swarns, who spent more than a year investigating the sex trade in America. In Georgia alone, okay, just Georgia, it is estimated that 7,200 men, half of them in their 30s, seek to purchase sex with adolescent girls each month, averaging roughly 300 a day in Georgia alone. And again, guys, this is a link that you can go click on. This whole article is full of links, guys, so you can do some serious research. On average, a child might be raped by 6,000 men during a 5-year period of servitude. You don't think there's slavery going on in the world today and in America? It's time to open your eyes. By the way, guys, well before the black slaves were shipped into the United States, there was white slavery. If you don't believe me, go do your research. White slavery was first. Whites were the slaves originally before they started bringing in the blacks, okay? And let me tell you something. There is no difference between a black person and a white person. There's good white people and bad white people. There's good black people and bad black people, okay, and brown people and whatever. It doesn't matter. Color does not matter. They use that as a division, to divide and to conquer. Let's continue. It is estimated that at least 100,000 children, that's girls and boys, are bought and sold for sex in the U.S. every year, and that's a link, guys, with as many as 300,000 children in danger of being trafficked each year. Some of these children are forcefully abducted, others are runaways, and still others are sold into the system by relatives and acquaintances. Quote, human trafficking, the commercial sexual exploitation of American children and women via the internet, strip clubs, escort services, and street prostitution, is on its way to becoming one of the worst crimes in the U.S., said prosecutor Krishna Patel. I don't know, guys. You tell me in the comments like you always do. I appreciate it when you do. This is an industry that revolves around cheap sex on the fly, with young girls and women who are sold to 50 men each day for $25 a piece. For $25, guys. This is absolutely insane. What if this was your little girl? What if this was your wife? You understand what I'm saying? This at $25? Unbelievable. Why is there even a price tag? There should be no. This should not even exist on the earth, guys. While their handlers make $150,000 to $200,000 per child each year. Now, do you understand why one of the very first executive orders was about human trafficking, guys? He immediately went into action concerning these things. This is not a problem found only in big cities. It's happening everywhere, right under our noses, in suburbs, cities, and towns across the nation. As Ernie Ellen of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children points out, and this is a link again, the only way not to find this in any American city is simply not to look for it. In other words, it's in every city. Don't fool yourselves into believing that this is merely a concern for lower income communities or immigrants. It's not. Here's another link. It is estimated that there are, another link, 100,000 to 150,000 underage child sex workers in the U.S. That's a lot. That is a huge amount. These girls aren't volunteering to be sex slaves. They are being lured, forced, trafficked into it. In most cases, they have no choice. In order to avoid detection, and in some cases aided and abetted by the police, imagine that, corrupt in some of the most important places, and cater to male buyers' demands for sex with different women, pimps, and gangs, and crime syndicates they work for, have turned sex trafficking into a highly mobile enterprise, with trafficked girls, boys, and women constantly being moved from city to city, state to state, and county to county. For instance, the Baltimore-Washington area, referred to as the Circuit, with its I-95 corridor dotted with rest stops, bus stations, and truck stops, is a hub for sex trade. And you can click here to see where the Circuit is, and that if you would like to, you could go travel over there and check it out for yourself. Okay, no doubt about it. This is a highly profitable, highly organized, and highly sophisticated sex trafficking business that operates in towns, large and small, raking in upwards of $9.5 billion a year in the U.S. alone, by abducting and selling young girls for sex. Every year, the girls being bought and sold gets younger and younger. The average age of those being trafficked is 13. Yet, as the head of a group that combats trafficking pointed out, let's think about what average means. That means there are children younger than 13. That means 8, 9, 10-year-olds even. This is unbelievable, people. Unbelievable. And this ain't even getting into the deep details of what's going on with child trafficking and child sacrifice. Okay? For every 10 women rescued, there are 50 to 100 more women who are brought in by the traffickers. Unfortunately, they are not 18 or 20-year-olds anymore, noted a 25-year-old victim of trafficking. They are minors as young as 13 who are being trafficked. They are little girls. Where did this appetite for young girls come from? Look around you. Young girls have been sexualized for years, now in music videos, on billboards and television ads, and in clothing stores. Marketers have created a demand for young flesh and a ready supply of over-sexualized children. Here's a quote: "All it takes is one look at MySpace photos of teens to see examples. If they aren't imitating porn they've actually seen, they are imitating the porn-inspired images and poses they've absorbed elsewhere," writes Jessica Bennett of Newsweek. Latex corsets and stripper heels, once the fashion of porn stars, have made their way into middle and high school. This is what Barnett refers to as the pornification of a generation. In a market that sells high heels for babies and thongs for tweens, it doesn't take genius to see that sex, if not porn, has invaded our lives, concludes Bennett. Whether we welcome it or not, television brings it into our living rooms, and the web brings it into our bedrooms. According to a 2007 study from the University of Alberta, as many as 90% of the boys and 70% of the girls aged 13 to 14 have accessed sexually explicit content at least once. In other words, the culture is grooming these young people to be preyed upon by sexual predators, and then we wonder why our young women are being preyed on, trafficked, and abused. Social media makes it all too easy. As one news center reported, finding girls is easy for pimps. They look on MySpace, Facebook, and other social networks. They and their assistants cruise malls, high schools, and middle schools. They pick them up at the bus stops, on the trolley. Girl-to-girl recruitment sometimes happens. Foster homes and youth shelters have also become prime targets for traffickers. Rarely do these girls enter into prostitution voluntarily. Many start out as runaways or throwaways, only to be snatched up by the pimps or large sex rings. Others, persuaded to meet up with the stranger after interacting online through one of the many social networking sites, find themselves quickly initiated into their new lives as sex slaves. Debbie, a straight A student who belonged to a cross-knit Air Force family living in Phoenix, Arizona, is an example of this trading of flesh. Debbie was 15 when she was snatched from her driveway by an acquaintance friend. Forced into a car, Debbie was bound and taken to an unknown location, held at gunpoint and raped by multiple men. She was then crammed into a small dog kennel and forced to eat dog biscuits. Debbie's captors advertised her services on Craigslist. Those who responded were often married with children, and the money that Debbie earned for sex was given to their kidnappers. The gang raping continued. After searching the apartment where Debbie was held captive, police finally found Debbie stuffed in a drawer under a bed. Her harrowing ordeal lasted for 40 days. While Debbie was fortunate enough to be rescued, others are not so lucky. According to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, nearly 800,000 children go missing every year, roughly 2,185 children a day. With a growing demand for sexual slavery and an endless supply of girls and women who can be targeted for abduction, this is not a problem that's going away anytime soon. For those trafficked, it's a nightmare from beginning to end. Those being sold for sex have an average life expectancy of 7 years, and those years are a living nightmare of endless rape, forced drugging, humiliation, degradation, threats, disease, pregnancies, abortions, miscarriages, torture, pain, and always the constant fear of being killed, or worse, having those you love hurt or killed. Okay, bribery. Peter Lanesman, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, I'd like to know how to say these words, these people's names, paints the full horrors of life for those victims of the sex trade in the New York Times article, The Girls Next Door. And you can click on that and go read about that. Andrea told me that she and the other children she was held with were frequently beaten to keep them off balance and obedient. Sometimes they were videotaped while being forced to have sex with adults or one another. Often, she said, she was asked to play roles. The therapist patient or the obedient daughter. Her cell of sex traffickers offered three age ranges of sex partners: toddler, unbelievable, to age 4, 5 to 12, and teens. as well as what she called a damage group. In the damage group, they can hit you or do anything they want to, she explained. Though sex always hurts when you are little, so it's always violent. Everything was much more painful once you were placed in the damage group. What Andrea described next shows just how depraved some portions of American society have become. They'd get you hungry, then to train you to have. They'd get you hungry, then to train you to have oral sex. They put honey on a man. For the littlest kids, you had to learn not to gag, and they would push things in you so you would open up better. We learned responses, like if they wanted us to be sultry or sexy or sacred. Most of them, I'm not sacred, scared. Most of them wanted you scared. When I got older, I'd teach the younger kids how to float away so things didn't hurt. Okay, they want you to be scared because of the adrenochrome. That's what they're going after, is the adrenochrome. When if they do end up murdering these trafficked people, then they're going after the adrenochrome. Okay, they're after. And if you don't know what that is, go do some research on it, guys. It's sad. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents at the Cyber Crimes Center of Fairfax, Virginia, report that when it comes to sex, the appetites of many Americans have now changed. What was once considered abnormal is now the norm. These agents are trafficking a clear spike in the demand for harder core pornography on the internet. As one agent noted, we become desensitized by the soft stuff. Now we need a harder and harder hit. This trend is reflected by the treatment many of the girls receive at the hands of the drug traffickers and the men who purchase them. Peter Lenzman interviewed Rosario, a Mexican woman who had been trafficked to New York and held captive for a number of years. She said, "In America, we had special jobs: oral sex, anal sex, often with men. Sex is now more adventurous, harder. A common thread woven through most survivors' experience is being forced to go without sleep or food until they have met their sex quota of at least 40 men." Now here we go into the quotas again. Just like with the police department, they have a quota, so they have to provide corruption in order to get their quotas. These quota things are the detriment to mankind. One woman recounts how her trafficker made her lie face down on the floor when she was pregnant, and then literally jumped on her back, forcing her to miscarry. Holly Austin Smith was abducted when she was 14 years old, raped, and then forced to prostitute herself. Her pimp, when brought to trial, was only made to serve a year in prison. This is how corrupt this entire system is, guys. There's people at very high levels that allow these people to get in and get out of the prison system. Barbara Amaya was reportedly sold between traffickers, abused, shot, stabbed, raped, kidnapped, trafficked, beaten, and jailed, all before she was 18 years old. I had a quota that I was supposed to fill every single night, and if I didn't have that amount of money, I would get beat, thrown down the stairs. He beat me once with wire coat hangers, the kind you hang up clothes. He straightened it out, and my whole back was bleeding. Okay, kind of like they did with the Lord Jesus Christ, isn't it? Same people involved. As David McSwain recounts in a chilling piece from the Herald Tribune, in Oakland Park, an industrial Fort Lauderdale suburb, federal agents in 2011 encountered a brothel operated by a married couple. Inside the Boom Boom Room, as it was known, customers paid a fee and were given a condom and a timer and left alone with one of the brothel's 8 teenagers, children as young as 13. A 16-year-old foster child testified that he acted as security, while the 17-year-old girl told a federal judge she was forced to have sex with as many as 20 men a night. One particular sex trafficking ring, catered specifically to migrant workers employed seasonally on farms throughout the southeastern states, especially the Carolinas and Georgia, although it's a flourishing business in every state in the country. Traffickers transport the women from farm to farm. where migrant workers would line up, migrant workers, again, I've hinted at this time and time again, guys, that everything that's going on with the migrants is to bring disease in, to bring sex trafficking in, to bring human trafficking in, and all these different things. So, where migrant workers would line up outside shacks, as many as 30 at a time, to have sex with them before they were transported to yet another farm, where the process would begin all over again. This growing evil is, for all intents and purposes, out in the open. Trafficked women and children are advertised on the internet, transported on the interstate, and bought and sold in swanky hotels. Okay, guys, I'm not going to read the rest of this. You guys can come and read the rest of it yourself. I just want you to see that the exposure is starting to take place, and we are going to begin to see the dirty details, and understand that when this area is covered in videos and these kinds of things, unfortunately the patriots are going to have to post them and put them out into the public, and some of the things that they're going to show and to say are not going to be appropriate for children. So just understand this, guys, that in the coming months, coming years, as this thing becomes exposed, you're going to find out things that are going to make your heart cringe. It's absolutely the saddest thing that you're not the saddest. It's not the saddest, because they're not even talking about the sacrificing yet and that kind of stuff that's going on. But it's absolutely saddening what's happened in America and around the earth. Guys, understand, this is not a game. These are very evil, wicked, corrupt people that absolutely, undeniably, and unquestionably worship Satan and the fallen angels. This is good versus evil, and if it is not taken care of, the days ahead are bleak, but it is being taken care of. It is becoming exposed, and these people will pay the price. That's why the executive orders are in place, and now things are coming to light, shining the light into the darkness. God bless you all. Get in the Word, stay in the Word, and get the Word in you. That's what you need. It's the most important thing. You cannot navigate through all these lies and deceptions without the truth being in you. The Word being in you. I'll talk to you guys later. Love you guys. Truly, genuinely love you. Everybody. Love and truth is the answer, people. Love and truth.